Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for T&D today, I have the You're the Greatest mug from some of my players. They got it from, I believe, Goodwill, but it's from like 1989 or something, so that's fun. And inside of it, I have the Soothing Caramel Bedtime Tea from Yogi Tea because it sounded good. That's the entire reason. I don't have anything more than that for you. That's the whole thing. So, before we get into what we're talking about today, I want to say thank you to all of you guys for interacting with and commenting on my videos. I know I haven't been responding to them. I'm very sorry, though I did I did read your comment and turn up the sensitivity on my microphone, and I will boost the volume a little bit in post-production because apparently it was a little bit difficult to hear me yesterday, and I don't want that to be the case. So, thank you so much. I am reading them, I promise, even if I'm not getting to actually respond to them. Anyway, getting into what we're talking about today. 5 tips for better combat. I've been like super busy. I shoot in like these really short time frames usually. I've been super busy. I haven't had time to go really look. I might have done a video like this before or an episode like this before. If so, sorry, but here's another one. These tips are definitely going to be at least a little bit different because I have learned things since I made the last one, because I learn things every time I run a game. That's one of the cool things about being a DM for me, is I never claim to be the end-all be-all of them. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get specifically five tips for making your combat more engaging for your players. And players, some of these apply to you too, so keep listening. I'm going to start real broad here. Number one, prep, and more prep. And you might be thinking, well, that's a stupid suggestion. And you're right, it is a stupid suggestion because it's way too broad. And what I mean in this specific point here, the next couple of them are actually also building off of this, but in this one specifically, what I'm talking about is I'm talking about prepping your monster stat blocks, or your enemy stat blocks. I guess they don't all have to be monsters. If you just throw them down as a sack of hit points, then they're just going to be a sack of hit points. If you make sure that they have some kind of cool ability or cool, interesting mechanics to them, they're going to be infinitely more engaging for your players. And I know that like the whole thing, and honestly not a terrible tip, is to just add more hit points when in doubt. Like if you're like, oh god, they're whipping through this way faster than I expected them to, just add more hit points. That is a decent tip, but I try to avoid that at all costs because when you do that, it does just become a slugfest. And if my players are being effective enough to like barrel through a massive pool of hit points, I want to reward them and give them that fast kill of something that is supposed to be incredibly difficult, something that is supposed to be incredibly intimidating. I want to give them the reward of just like, wow, you guys effectively utilize your action economy in this combat, and you did it. Congratulations. So I try to avoid just throwing more hit points on to extend the fight if I can help it, because just adding more things to punch, or more of the thing to punch, I guess, is less engaging. So in going through stat blocks, I always try and screen my monsters really, really intensely. That's part of the reason that I do so much pre-reading on all of the different monsters that I end up using. And that's why I have so many different monster books and monster resources and stuff like that, because I read them all and then I try and like lock away some of the really cool mechanics in my head so that I can either pull from them when I need to build my own monsters, or I can just go ahead and I can flip through, find the one that I need, and go with it from there. Being able to sort of just pull these fun mechanics out is always really cool. And it makes it more interesting to have monsters that do interesting things than monsters that survive for a long time. Part of the reason that 5th edition is built to be a glass cannon system for monsters is because combat becomes slow and sort of this long haul when you are just hitting it for the sake of hitting it and just depleting hit points. So that's why so many monsters, even the really big scary ones that you're fighting at level like 15, still only have like 400 hit points, which can be gone through in 2 rounds of combat if the players are playing very, very effectively. So make sure in your prep, and more prep, you are doing a lot of work in making sure that your monster stat blocks are airtight, they are super interesting, and they are absolutely fascinating. I understand those two are synonyms. I don't care. Number 2, part of prep, and no prep, but different at the same time. Throw down a map. And this one cannot be part of prep, and no prep as well. Because the thing with maps is, if you know anything about me, I am a mini and a map fiend. I love my minis. I love my maps. I adore them. Part of the reason that I started liking D&D so much right at the get-go, I played like one session, and then I went and I bought a bunch of minis because I was like, oh, well, I could have these now. But you don't need to do that, is the thing. You don't have to. In your head, you have conjured up the image of this map. And so if you just get a piece of paper and you draw on it, the map, and put it down, it is going to automatically make it a little bit more engaging for your players if you're playing around a table. And the reason for that is when people have something to look at, they have something to focus on. I love Theater of the Mind. I think it is a wildly effective tool. I think that it is super useful. I think it's great for sort of on-the-fly movement, fluid kind of combat systems. However, when you are trying to sit down and do a combat, a lot of times your players will be a little bit confused, and you'll be sitting there trying to explain to them, no, you can't do that. There's a pillar in the way. No, you can't do that because this, that, or the other thing. You don't have to be like super, super hard about like movement and spacing and stuff like that. So long as everybody's on the same page, you can use the Theater of the Mind like general fluidness of space, but if you put it down on a table in front of you, your players will be able to look at it, and then you will be able to more effectively communicate the thing that you are trying to. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, I am not like dumping on Theater of the Mind at all. I think it is fantastic. I use it all the time. But I am a maps boy, and I highly recommend using some kind of a map. It also gives your players a fun character building opportunity for you as a DM or you as a player to go, everybody bring in something that represents your character, that could represent your character on a battle map. And then it forces your players to find something that is like small, that doesn't necessarily have to be a mini. It could be a mini, doesn't have to be. But like something small to just like, this is a pin of a bird. Like, you just find something that you're like, that's going to be my character. And you can use anything to represent the monsters. In front of me, sitting here right now, you guys saw them last season. They haven't left the desk because I love them so much. We have Johnny and Barnabas, the rubber ducks. These can be monsters in your game. They could be dragons. They could be giant eagles. They could be something that doesn't fly. Bullets. They could be anything. If you just give players something to look at, even if it's goofy, they'll be like, oh, hey, that's fun. Look at that. And they'll like inspect it a little bit, and they'll more concretely connect with the thing that is in front of them. Plus, if you do that and you have these goofy things for like your time over the campaign, and then you get to a major like pivotal moment and you go, okay, everybody roll initiative, and you turn around and you pick up like a legit dragon mini or something like that. Like this thing is the size of my head almost. If you're listening, I'm sorry, you can't see the red dragon that I'm holding up. This immediately communicates to them, oh God, there's something big going on right here. And with a set piece like that, you have prepped for that. You know what's going to happen. You can build a map ahead of time. And by build, I mean draw, like just a sketch out on a piece of paper. You don't have to do anything crazy. You'll have the prep time for that because you know it's coming. So that's number 2. Throw down a map of some kind, of any kind. Just do it. Just get it down on the table. Let people interact with it, see it, imagine things in 3D space. Number 3, again, part of prep, and no prep, but a little bit, we're moving further and further away from just like random prep. Make the battlefield interesting, give it environmental hazards, give it levels, give it something or another that makes it more engaging than a flat open room with 40-foot high ceilings that anybody can just exist in. If you give your battlefield something that is fascinating to look at, something that's fascinating to interact with, something that could be used as a tactical advantage if the players are feeling creative, you're going to automatically have people thinking a little bit more deeply about the combat that you are putting in front of them. A really, really good example, mild spoilers for Campaign 1 of Critical Role, is that in Campaign 1 of Critical Role, when they are interacting with the Sphinx and they realize they can't beat the Sphinx, they have to do other things. Matt has all of these things for them to interact with around the room. That's so fun. That's so cool. And so you can just like throw some stuff in there that make there be an alternate way to finish the encounter that you are running, other than just beating the thing to death. Give it some kind of alternate solution. Give it some kind of creative solution that is associated with those environmental factors that you have put in there. Because honestly, they're fun to use. And players, for your part on this one, interact with the environment. Your DM put a lot of work in getting the environment to be exactly the way they wanted it to. And if you are somebody who is thinking creatively, interacting with the environment around the creatures that are existing within it, your DM is going to put more and more and more of those things in moving forward, because they are going to realize, oh, this is an important thing for you guys. And it actually like focuses you up a little bit more, and it makes you want to pay a little more attention in combat, because so many, especially home D&D games, just fall into the "it's not my turn in combat, here comes the phone" kind of thing. And then there's some catch up at the beginning of every single turn. So making the battlefield more interesting gives people more to think about between their turn and their next turn, because it forces them to try and think in a creative fashion and find some kind of solution that isn't necessarily just hit the thing in front of you, cast the big spell, and all of that. All right, we are out of the prep and more prep umbrella now with number 4, which is just RP through it. There is nothing quite like combat with good roleplay running through it. There's a reason that all of these D&D shows get away with having full combat episodes that are like 2, 3, 4 hours long. It is because they continue to roleplay through it. The 6 seconds thing, if you are trying to be real strict with time and that is the game you are running, more power to you. There's not as much room for roleplay. But if you are running a more roleplay focused game, or one that puts a little bit more emphasis on it, go ahead and roleplay through it. Give people 12 seconds of talking on their turn or something like that. Let them have like quick interactions with each other where they actually get to converse instead of just saying "over there" or something like that, because it gives them a little bit more room to, play the game, play the role. Plus, if you're allowing that to be something that is going on, people are going to be listening to what other people are saying around the table, and they can be interacting at the same time. If you are somebody who is the rogue, let's say, and you have stabbed and spun away, and you yell out to the wizard who's over there, whose turn is in 4 initiative slots, the rogue can tell them something that gives the wizard something to think about, so that the wizard can do something. And in the wizard doing something, you might be setting the rogue up for something else. And so, like, the active strategizing is good. Now, that said, don't let them, like, pause the game to do a full plan kind of thing. Like, you're not going to, like, take a break, let everybody sort of, like, game plan it out, strategize, and then come back to it. Like, it should still be pretty quick and keep it moving, but opening up the door to allowing people to discuss, and by discuss, I literally just mean, like, talk back and forth real quick, adds so much to your actual, like, ability to get some meat out of combat experiences that aren't just numbers and rolling dice. It's a really, really, like, tricky thing sometimes, but it's a really rewarding thing when you can get it. And once you get it the first time, it clicks and you get it and it makes sense. And you can keep doing it from there, and it keeps getting better and better and better from there. You don't, once you have that sense of timing down, you don't really lose it too quickly. And so 4, role play through it. Just role play through it. Which brings us to the last one, number 5. There we go. When in doubt, just say yes. That goes for players, that goes for especially DMs. When you don't know, just say yeah. Yeah, okay. Like, think about it for a second, but just say yes. If there is a good reason for you to pull out a rule book and look up the rule, then go for it. If you know that you can find it super quickly, go for it. But nothing stops combat up more than, well, with small exception, cell phones, more than having to stop everything to pull out the player's handbook, to look something up, or to have to Google something, or to have to, like, scroll through D&D Beyond for something. When in doubt, say yes. Give it a shot. See what happens. Like, the worst thing that happens is the outcome is not so favorable for you, and you have to adapt to that. And D&D is a game of improv. It's kind of what the whole game is. You have to adapt to the things that happen to you. Like, don't get me wrong. When the barbarian says, "Hey, can I pick them up and, like, pull their head off their body?" and it's a brand new enemy, they are, I don't know, a 20th level wizard, and these are like level 8s who are fighting them for some reason. and it will just end the encounter right away. Maybe don't go for that one, but if the barbarian is like, hey, can I try to like use the head of my great axe to pole vault over this chasm here? Sure, why not? Let's see what happens. Roll a dice, see what comes of it. Because again, the worst thing that happens is they fail. If you're the player, the worst thing that happens if you're the DM, maybe, is they succeed. Like, the game is all about success and failure. There's nothing stopping you from like modifying the outcome in such a way that will like benefit the story if you're the DM, or like arguing your case if you're the player. If you're gonna argue case, go easy, make one solid like argument for it, and then drop it. The DM doesn't want to sit there and like beat a dead horse with you. But like, just say yes to it. Give it a shot. See what happens. Because the worst thing that happens is either success or failure. Like, those are the two options really at the end of the day. There's partial success, partial failure, all that. Success on a grade, failure on a grade, whatever. The two ends of the spectrum are success and failure. Really? That's it? That's what you're worried about? Just give it a shot. Say yeah. Why not? So again, those are my 5 tips for making combat more engaging around your table, either as a player or as a DM. 1, prep, and more prep. 2, throw a map down. 3, make the battlefield interesting. 4, roleplay through it. And 5, when in doubt, just say yes. Because honestly, why not? Those are my 5 tips for you. Going on to see what shows we have today. On this lovely Tuesday, we have Diary of a Dragon Pit, Star Wars First Resistance, Dungeons and Daddies, Bombarded, Heck of a D&D, Glass Cannon, and the Queer Questers. Go ahead and check them out. Let them know that I sent you, because again, someday somebody's going to say something to me about it. I'm going to think it's very funny. But until then, I'm going to keep asking you guys to do so. That's everything I have to talk to you guys about. So, thank you guys so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check out the link in the episode description. And again, thank you guys so much for engaging with my content, with commenting on videos, liking videos, you know, like trying to talk to me, even if I'm bad at responding to the talk that is happening. I genuinely appreciate it so much, because it helps. It really does. Like, it helps the algorithm. It helps me know like what things I need to fix. Like making my microphone louder. That was probably really terrible. I'm sorry. But like, thank you, really. So with all that said, guys, don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.